back then, it was clearly less accessible to be a car enthusiast if you didn't have money. And I think what may be happening is we've seen this dip for the past 15 years where it's become a lot cheaper. It's become a lot more affordable. It's been more accessible with the growth of social media and with just car prices for enthusiast vehicles dropping down, S chassis, Miatas, whatever being cheap. It's been more accessible for people with lower budgets or less money to get into cars.
That is interesting.
And now, because the trends are going back up and things are changing, it's getting more expensive. Well, it was more expensive back then. We just got lucky for a while. Yo, what's going on, guys? Welcome to Substance Podcast. I'm your host, Liam.
And I'm your other host, Matt.
And this week's episode, we do not have a guest. We did have one planned, but unfortunately some stuff got moved around and just kind of out of our control. So it's just me and Matt. We're sitting down and we're not entirely sure what we're doing. And
yeah, we're kind of flying by the seat of our pants on this one.
Yeah.
I just heard it happen, so not to interrupt you, but I'm just going to go ahead
and
let them know.
Please.
I don't know if anybody has allergies to pollen. I'm sure at least one of you does, and you can commiserate with me. But I have allergies to pollen so bad. So I apologize in advance if my voice changes in the middle of this shit because the top half of my head just kind of gets blocked. I'm going to try and move away from the mic to sniffle or whatever other shitty sounds that I make.
Yeah.
I apologize profusely. I just really wanted to do the episode, so please forgive me.
Yeah, and we're recording early right now, and it would be dope because we have enough time to plan for us to have a guest like at the weekend, but both of us, it's Easter weekend, so both of us have plans. My parents are coming into town to visit me. I get to see them maybe once or twice a year, so obviously I am not available, and Matt is out of town for a wedding, right?
I am.
Yeah. So we're recording this early. We did have a guest planned. It didn't work out. So hopefully that will be next week's episode. But yeah, for this week, I think we're just going to talk a little bit about kind of what's going on. We have some plans for Substance that are they're not really in the works just yet, but we're working towards them, and we can kind of give you guys a little bit of a tease and hype it up a little bit as to what we're planning to do with this. And then there's probably just a couple other things that we can kind of talk on, little conversations and topics related to cars. But before we do that, what's been going on? Because it's 2 weeks after Riverside. By the time you guys are listening to this.
Well, spoiler alert, my allergies have been absolutely fucking just devastating me. And see, there it is, folks. You can literally hear my nose closing up.
In other news, no. What the fuck did
In other
news, Matt got a haircut.
I did. Shout out to my boy Ashton at Ashton Styles on Instagram, I believe.
Yes.
It is.
In the
Is there an
barbershop.
underscore?
I thought it's just Ashton Williams. You're talking about his barbershop.
Yeah. Well,
Instagram.
Yes. Ashton Williams. The O in Ashton is a 0.
Yeah.
He's been Ashton's a good friend. He's been cutting my hair. For a good since probably early 2020 now.
Well, Ashton's the boy. We can definitely shout him out. He has a pretty fucking sick LS swapped S10. It is a C10. Sorry, God,
how dare you?
Ignorant. C10. It's like
a
really cool.
We're not American car guys. It's fine.
Yeah, it's like a really cool patinaed truck that he just put an LS in. What wheels did he just put on there?
They're either.
They're like American Racing.
Kragers or American Racing. They're not Daytons. He used to have Daytons on.
Yeah, just like a very traditional looking setup, but it's a pretty rad truck, and he cuts my hair too. He cuts Benny's hair as well. His barbershop that he works at in the cut is like right down the street. So if any of you guys live in Chattanooga or close to Chattanooga, or even you're listening to this before Riverside next year and you need a haircut, go to
Ashton's
In the Cut and book an appointment with Ashton, because
Ashton is the boy. He's a magic man.
Yes, sir. What else? Matt got a haircut. Matt can't breathe. Riverside was 2 weeks ago. I have been like, I don't know why, but I think I've been having like post Riverside depression for the past 2 weeks because ever since Riverside, I've not got caught up on anything. I've really needed to go back and go through all of my inventory and get everything up on the site, but I've been waiting for stuff to come in from my absolutely garbage supplier. Sorry, not sorry. They fuck up everything. Sorry for literally, like, I switched suppliers because my old supplier that was amazing was getting out of the business. And yeah, I went with these new guys and they've just been kind of consistently letting me down and charging me way more money for it. And so, yeah, unfortunately, some of you guys that copped the last drop where we had the sweatpants, the Substance crew necks, the Snake logo hoodies, and then those coilover shirts, I really, really apologize to all of you guys, but you guys have been waiting for like a month, and I hate that. It sucks. Like, all of that stuff was a pre-order because I've had like not the best cash flow through winter, and so we had to set it up that way. But like, everything was ordered forever ago. It was supposed to be here like within 2 weeks of the order being put in, and it's been over a month. It's getting close to like 6 weeks, and I'm so over it. But thankfully, I picked everything up today, and so after I record this episode, everything will get shipped out, and hopefully you guys have the stuff by the time this episode is live. But I guess that can kind of lead into some of the reasons I cannot continue to do LEP. Rivers, I think like one of the big reasons I've been like so bummed out since Riverside is because Riverside was going to be the last show that I was doing a drop. This was the last time I was going to be a vendor. This is like LEP's done. And, you know, I was bummed about that, but the idea of selling out of everything that I have and then taking that money and being able to not put it back into inventory and like be able to invest it into finishing up my car or paying off any of my debt related to the business. All of that was gone because my supplier absolutely charged me out the ass. And so the profit margins were so bad. And also there were so many print mistakes that I had to sell everything cheaper than I would have liked to. So I made absolutely no money at Riverside, and all of it has been spent on little things. And yeah, that's really, really disappointing. So yes, 2 weeks after Riverside, and I'm just haven't been that productive the past 2 weeks.
I mean, it's a momentum thing. When your momentum gets broken, sometimes it takes a little while. That like, it's so funny because when we talk about like what happened. All right, I gotta get words together here in my brain. What happened when you kind of hung up LEP here as far as like the brand is concerned, where it's just kind of like you kind of took stock of everything, and especially in this situation where you lost money because of somebody else and their bullshit, it's just like, that'll take the fucking wind out of you, dude, period. And obviously it has, which sucks, but you know, it's like I was telling Ashlyn about this earlier when I was sitting in the chair. I was like, it's like, yeah, it's a little weird because I don't know if I've ever really seen Liam not be like fucking on fire with ambition, but I obviously know you're going to bounce back, and I told him that, but like that's kind of, you know, for me was kind of an indicator for where you're at mentally at this second as a result of that. Just, you know, you can see it. I mean, it sucks, but also I know you well enough to know that you're going to bounce back pretty quickly, as a matter of fact. Yeah, hopefully so. And I mean, that kind of leads into some of the stuff that we want to talk about with this episode. Obviously, Riverside weekend was crazy busy, and a lot of people came up, and we definitely want to say shout out to all the people that came to the booth and said what's up, hey, I love the podcast, that kind of stuff. That's really truly awesome. It's one thing, you know, to see comments or hear from people online, but it's another thing when people come up in person and just have a quick chit chat with either of us and just like, hey, I love what you're doing with the podcast. I even had quite a few people that came up and had never heard of either of us. They had no idea who we were before they found the podcast. They just happened to stumble across it, and now they're like, dude, I love it. I listen every week, and it really
makes my day better, makes my week better, and we love to hear that.
That makes
awesome.
our days and weeks and months better.
It absolutely does. But yeah, so going
really
off
quick,
sure,
coattailing on that. I'm pretty sure I already said this maybe in the episode with Pete. I honestly don't remember, but to anybody that was looking for me at the booth and I was not around, I apologize for that. Regardless, I really appreciate you. That I've said it a million times, and I'm going to say it, into infinity. That's really such a cool feeling for me that people that I don't know, want to talk to me about stuff like this. That's really, really. It's a really cool feeling to me, and the amount of like fucking bright-eyed, open mouth smiles that I got as far as like people being like, I want to shake your hand. I was like, oh my God, I could get high off of this feeling right now. So, I really appreciate all of you guys. I just really do. Everybody that I talk to at Riverside, you guys know who you are. I really appreciate you. God damn it. I appreciate all of you so much.
Yeah.
Jesus Christ.
We both share the same sentiment with this. Like the podcast, like we've said time and time again, is just like, this is a passion project for us. This is, something that we've wanted to do. It's something that happens whether there's cameras and lights and microphones in front of us. Me and Matt have these conversations. And so to be able to record it and it come across so naturally to an audience and you guys like really enjoy it makes, the fact that it can make your day better, let alone your week, whatever, is incredible.
Yeah.
And yeah, kind of leading into what the plans are. There's been a lot of questions for me like, oh no, what are you going to do now that LEP is done? Blah, blah, blah. Like, are you just getting a regular job? Are you doing this? And I don't have like a solid answer for you just yet because I have, a lot of things that I need to figure out for myself just to make sure that I can pay bills and whatever. But
keep talking. You got a whole lot of dolly hair.
I got a lot of dog hair all over me because Dolly wanted a hug before we came in here. But yeah, Substance is not going to be taking place of LEP, but in a way it will be. It is not the same thing. It's not like, hey, LEP is done. I'm switching all of the merchandise and the designs and everything over to being Substance. That is not the case at all. But Substance will be taking more of a direction with branding and merchandise here in the near future. And I don't want to divulge too much because I do want to leave some of this up for surprise, and I also don't want to say anything and then we go back on it and change it and then people are confused. But I am very, very excited because I think that Substance, for the first time ever, is going to be more of a collective thing between myself, Matt, and Benny, because I've learned a lot of things over the years from running my own business and trying to dip my hand into so many different ventures. I've tried to be creatively in control of everything. I've tried to be in control of all the business side of things, the logistics, design side of things, just every part of the business I've been involved with because it's just been me for years. And I've really started to come to terms with the fact that my friends and the people that I surround myself with have so many incredible traits and skills and things that they are good at that if we all join together to put our efforts into one thing, it could be so much greater than if we were doing things separately. And so I think that is kind of the direction we're going to be going with this, is that, Substance is not just going to be like, oh, it's LEP, that's Liam's thing. No, I
think for me, really one of the most exciting parts of this, and honestly, as far as Benny being involved is really exciting. And that's kind of I feel like that's kind of a new development in that you guys have been doing a lot of those videos about shooting, and, Benny obviously being the third best friend here. It's all a very fluid thing. What I mean? It's not like we're trying to put a square peg in a round hole with that. So, but as far as Liam and I are concerned, having been, and don't get me wrong, Liam is and always was a much better brand owner than I was, and just numbers don't lie. That's just the way it was. Needless to say, I enjoyed the fuck out of my time doing that, and it was a really fulfilling thing for me. And
so I couldn't help but chuckle at you saying numbers don't lie, because
you made, but then lost more than I ever made, and then lost.
I was gonna say I filed my taxes last night. Finally got around to like finishing everything up with that. Yeah, we made a loss.
Well,
hey, it felt pretty good. I'm not gonna lie, because it's like it's a big number, but like it's been stressing me out about like doing my taxes, because it's like, hey, you made a lot of money. It's like, how the fuck do we get it so I don't have to pay a bunch of money? But yeah, I actually wrote off more than we made. So yeah, we did show a loss, and that's not inaccurate. But I'm very, very proud that we even got to that point, to be quite honest.
There you go.
Yes, but numbers don't lie. Liam knows how to make a loss.
So anyhow, Liam is far and away just a much better business person, if I can call you that in this context. He's very ambitious. He understands business. He understands things like that much better than I do. And I'll admit that to anybody. I don't care. I'll shift the attention to him about that for anybody. But anyway.
And Matt knows design and design language a lot better than I do.
That's kind of what I'm getting at. I'm really, really excited about this is Liam is bringing everything that he learned from LEP, what works, what doesn't. I'm bringing everything I learned from Not Fast, what works, what doesn't. Benny is going to be bringing everything he learned over years of experience as a photographer. All of those, so it's going to be like a fucking super group. Substance is literally going to be a super group.
Like the cool thing is
bringing that stuff to the table.
We each have our main skills. We each have a category that we all fall into, which is all three of us are creatives.
Yeah.
Right? But each of us has like a specialty. We each have like a skill or a skill set or something that is experience-based that we can bring to the table. Me is my business experience, networking, getting out into the right places, marketing. Yours is design language, is doing this. Both of us have a skill in doing this and sitting on the podcast and talking, because we have thankfully been experienced in that for the past however long we've been recording.
I generally, anything pertaining to design language, graphic design, content curation, product development sounds a little much, but product design, things like that.
Hey, you never know. Maybe... we haven't technically talked about what it is that we're going to sell or offer, and I'm going to leave that kind of up in the air, but product development could or could not be unrealistic.
I suppose that's
we don't
true.
have to just be selling T-shirts or stickers, although that is, you guys expect that. Of course, we're going to be doing some kind of merchandising stuff, but there are plenty of directions that we can go with this, and we do want to tie everything back to the same kind of core values and stuff that we talk about on this podcast. And so we're not about to just be like, all right, Substance isn't a podcast anymore. It is now
a brand.
It's a llama shop. Thanks, Pete, for that. But no, it is still going. It's still going to be a podcast. But we want to grow this, and we want to use the podcast as the audience, because anybody that is listening to this and sticks around for these entire episodes and tunes in every week, you are the type of people that we want to have around. We want to associate with you guys. If you guys share the same core values, you're able to open your mind, you're able to engage in the kind of conversations like we have, you're the type of people we want to be friends with.
Well, and one thing I want to say that's definitely something that's going to be important and talked about a lot between Liam and I, as far as, whatever appearances may, at what time they happen, if we come to a show and set up to whatever aspect, we are going to make it a priority that Liam and I are available, not killing ourselves behind the booth and then just kind of being like, hey man, like I wish I could talk right now, but I can't, and this and that and this and that. Our priority in that situation is going to be to...
Wait, did you say something about a booth?
I mean, I didn't not say something about a booth. It's so funny because we were talking about this like earlier today, and I was like, but I don't know what we're leaving for the bedroom. Like so I'm like,
it really doesn't matter.
I'm low key like following. No.
I'm not. We're not divulging everything. But if we tease you guys, I apologize. But
I don't. That shit's exciting. Fuck.
No, of course. But following on from what Matt said, we do want to be available, and I think one of the things of also, aside to that, is when we go to events, which we will be doing, we actually want to see the events. I've talked about this in the podcast 2 episodes ago, where I really didn't get a chance to experience or see anything.
We are going to get hats where when we're wearing the hats, please don't.
We should get, how like radio stations have like the light on the door that says live, like they're recording.
We need to get like, how you can get shirts that somehow they like route electricity somehow so the shit on your shirt can light up. Do you know what I'm talking about? Yeah. We need to just get those, and then it'll just say live on them or some shit.
I feel like this is dumb because there's going to be so many people at an event that are just going to be like, who are these obnoxious guys that think that a bunch of people know them? But no, okay. We're not going to do all that. But we do actually want to go to events and walk around, see cars, talk to people, talk to owners, and then try and figure out a way that we can kind of do both. We want to be available for people to have conversations. We want to see if we can do some kind of a live recording episode at a show. Like we can have a live audience. We can have people jump in and out of the podcast to talk about something. Maybe even like a live questionnaire type thing, whatever. There's a bunch of ideas that we're throwing around. Right now, we don't have anything solid. We're not confirming like, we're going to be at so-and-so event. We're really in early planning stages.
All of this is very... Okay, let me lay this out for you. I'm going to say that all of this is very fluid right now because it is. There's a lot of, development going on between Liam and I right now. But, the things that we're saying are obviously plans that we have, but like... the episodes at shows is a perfect example. Like, as you can imagine, there's a lot of logistics to figure out with that because, people just cannot help themselves. Oh, yes. You're recording some type of media?
Let me ruin
Penis. Yeah. Like, people can't help them. So it's stuff like that we're going to have to take that into account. I mean, because you guys know people. They just can't. So... But
car shows are also extremely loud.
Yeah.
Do we really want to have the sound of music and just noise in the background of us recording? Is it something that would even get recorded for the air? Who knows? We don't know yet. There's a lot of things to figure out, and we're also open to suggestions. If any of you guys work or have worked within the media industry and are familiar with like live podcast stuff, talk to us. Let us know some of your ideas. And also take into consideration that we do not have money. So please don't be in my DMs and send me a bunch of equipment that costs tens of thousands of dollars that I cannot buy because that's unrealistic. Help us find ways that we can record a live episode at a show.
Help us execute the best we can with the resources that we have.
Yes, please. Please.
But yeah, I mean, it's kind of going back to what I was saying earlier. I think one of the best and coolest things about this is going to be, and I mean, maybe I'm biased, but like this literally is 3 people that they all, when I say they function differently, it's not like I'm saying none of us are interested in the same kind of design or any way to communicate ourselves.
No, we just have different perspectives on everything.
Exactly. And we have different stories as to where we ended up creatively. So, right. But the thing about the 3 of us that I know is when we're doing something like this, there's no half-assing it.
No, that's like the best part about this, and the reason that all of this makes sense is because myself, Matt, and Benny, we are all extremely passionate about this. The stuff that we do, like every time, if you guys are subscribers of the YouTube channel, you watch any of the videos that feature all 3 of us, you'll notice like the fun kind of childish energy. Like we fuck around a lot, but we all get along really well. And especially you'll see it in the videos with me and Ben when we go out and do these photo shoots. They're the drive and shoot videos. We'll go out, shoot cars, and just explain what we're doing. And it doesn't need to be like super educational or whatever. There's just really good banter between me and Benny. And we're passionate about what we do.
I think that's the thing is, you know, it's really fun. All of us are like really, I mean, fuck it. All of us are really fun dudes and we have fun, you know, doing whatever together. But like, when it comes time to do the shit that we're passionate about, like we're serious about it.
Yeah.
We're all very serious about it. But the thing is, it's like we are very much going into this trying to create something that we told you guys from the first episode that we want to open the dialogue, but then also continue the conversation. We want to continue the conversation with you guys. You've seen this. Liam and I can sit here and talk about shit for 4 hours. I mean, we could do it. We've done it before, but like we want other perspectives, whether they're supporting ours or telling us that we're wrong. We want all of this. And I think the way that we are and are going to approach, you know, building whatever substance it kind of ends up being is with that in mind, is trying to make it, you know, in the image that we want as creators, but for the purpose of being interactive.
Yeah.
So that it can grow, not only grow organically, but it can, I want for you guys, I mean, the listeners, but really for anybody in the car community that like gives a shit, I want you guys to feel like you had a role in kind of getting substance to where it eventually ends up.
Absolutely. And any of you guys that are listening now are a part of that. We're still in, you know, early stages of this podcast. Although we've done a lot of episodes, we've been pretty consistent with doing it every week now since, was it October? No, it was November that we dropped like the first episode.
Holy fuck.
So yeah, it's been,
oh my God,
it's been a while.
It has.
Yeah. We've really,
yeah. Thanks you guys.
We've really stuck to this. It does honestly feel weird. But yeah, it's crazy. Like any of you guys that are listening now, like live, like when these episodes drop, you are the people that are helping this grow. And
100%.
A few years from now, shit, even a year from now, this could be a whole lot bigger than it is now. And, like I'd mentioned 2 episodes ago, I'm really excited to see where the podcast space is going to go. There is more and more automotive podcasts that are popping up. And the more that are out there, the more people realize that podcasts are a thing in the automotive space, and we're at the forefront of that. Like, I want to be in there with all these other podcasts, and that's just a cool feeling to know that we have found something that could potentially be the next, like, large social trend for this industry. Like, us being a part of that and being at, like, the very start of it is amazing, because we have so many ideas and so many things that we want to, like, work on and work towards. And I think that we're in a good spot right now.
Yeah,
I'm super pumped about this.
I would absolutely agree. And, you know, like I said, I think that is, it's so fun. This is like a random offshoot, and I'll return to what I was about to say. But when I worked at Infiniti, and I took like technician classes, there was one that at the time seemed kind of out of place, but it has stuck with me ever since. And it was basically talking about like the not mission statement, but like the general design and what the fuck am I talking about? It's like, I want to say design language, but I feel like there's a better word for it. But
direction?
Like, sort of. It's like, the point is they were explaining like the design language and where the general basis of the idea and the approach they took towards the cars. And I don't really remember all of it, but one thing that just stuck with me for some reason was just how it felt as I was watching it. So often car companies will just come up with like this really cheesy, like, we wanted to channel like bleh. Mm-hmm. And I'm watching this thing from Infiniti, and it was just like, it was so it like moved me, which was super. I'm like, how the fuck? How am I being moved by like a design inspiration for an event?
Like you got done watching it and your chair was 10 feet further back and you're like, wait, how did I move?
Dude, it was just so crazy because like it was so listening to what they were saying and then turning around and looking at one of the cars. I'm like, holy fuck. They literally like what I just heard is all sitting there in that car. Mm-hmm. And it was just this really, really cool feeling for me. And ever since then, I'm like, anything that I take time to create, which is going to be substance, I want it to be like that. I want it to feel like that. I want it to be this thing where...
Are you talking about like authenticity?
Well, yes, but like I want it to be kind of, like I said, I think one of the big words for me is going to be interactive. You know what I mean? I want it to be like, oh yeah, like I listen to the podcast, I listen to these guys talk, you know what I mean? I'm in my car and like I love listening, but they're kind of like disembodied voices or whatever.
I got you, yeah.
I mean, first of all, you and me, but definitely, once we start making like spaces where we do have a booth or, what have you, I want it to be like that situation that I had in Infinity where you have the words and the things that we're saying on the podcast, and then you can walk into that space that we create on this podcast. Mm-hmm. You can walk into that space, whether it's just you talking to us or if we have a booth. You know what I mean?
I think I know what you mean. Like,
it's like
you want people to feel like they're involved in this, not instead of just sitting on the couch and listening to it.
Yeah.
Yeah. No, I totally agree with you on that. There's a lot of directions that we can go with this. Like I said, I don't want to get too much into everything. I know that we're being very vague, but we have big ideas, we have big plans, and I feel like we have the right people in our corners too. Outside of just us three, we have a lot of good connections between the three of us. We have a lot of people that we know all over the place. And I think that just a lot of the lessons that each of us have learned from our own ventures will help dramatically in this going the right way. And if it doesn't, so be it. I'm always open to failures too.
That's
you
how
really
you
have
learn.
to be, but
that's how
we have a lot of ideas and a lot of things that we're excited about. And I don't know what will be the first thing that comes or like the first thing that you guys see or hear of. Matt is working behind the scenes on a website right now.
I am. It's like you just said, I don't have a concrete drop date for you yet, but I will tell you will not be waiting too long for that. But
it may be done soonish. We just don't know.
Well,
we need an excuse to drop it, really.
There's that, but then the other thing is, just to be completely transparent with you guys, we are, aside from the podcast episodes, obviously, the content is just not going to all be there yet.
Yes.
Because obviously we have very limited items in our store at the moment. But I promise you, relatively quickly. Woo! Okay.
Relatively
quickly, it will build and build. And also, quick shout out to the Discord. Super shout out to all the guys regularly in the Discord. We love you guys, but
we did forget to do a stream of last week's episode.
I texted Liam and I was like, "Oh no, we forgot to do a fucking stream this week." And he was like, "Oops."
Yeah.
So sorry about that.
I can give a little bit of reasoning for that. One, I did forget, but also it's kind of difficult for me because you got to think how long these episodes are, right? I sit here on the episode and record it. So that's say an episode is 2 hours long, right? I sit here and have the conversation for 2 hours. I am physically here, right? Afterwards, I edit it. I have to listen to the entire thing, which is another 2 hours at minimum. If I have to go through and like cut some stuff out, or I need to add in pictures or things for context, that's a lot more time on top of that I have to continue listening back through the same thing, right? all said and done, to actually get the episode live, I've heard it 3 times, right? Once the episode is live, then the next day we're going to go and do a stream. I don't particularly want to listen to the same thing again. So, yeah, that's why this week I did actually forget, but like I told Matt, I was like, yeah, you may have to handle the stream and I'll just kind of like pop in the conversation and talk with people. But I don't know if I can deal with listening.
And I'm sure none of you can blame him for that. I certainly cannot. It's so painful to watch Liam, to be in the same room as Liam editing for more than like 5 minutes makes my head hurt. So
yes,
I don't
because
really
I'm constantly
know how.
like I'm skipping back and forth through frames and shit, and all you're hearing is and it's pretty unbearable. And like editing a podcast is like a lot easier or less intensive than editing like a video. If I was editing like a 2-hour-long documentary, yeah, it'd take me fucking weeks and weeks. Like it's pretty easy because I am just listening to it, and if there's things where I need to leave a marker to be like, okay, come back to that, that's a clippable point or whatever, it just takes time. I just have to sit there and listen to it, and sitting there and listening to yourself talk is kind of, it's not my favorite thing. Like I've talked about 2 episodes ago, I was like, I don't want to be a narcissist. I don't want to go to car shows and talk about myself to people all the time. Just like I don't want to listen to myself.
Yeah.
Like I would love it if we could set this up someday where we have an editor, we have a production assistant, we have a studio. So when we come in to record the episodes, somebody else handles everything. We sit down, we say the things that we need to, and then it doesn't we don't have to worry about all the logistics and things outside of it that could take away from our passion and drive to be able to sit here and talk about the things that we're excited to talk about.
Speaking to that, it kind of comes back to one of the things that we said earlier. It's like one of the really nice things, frankly, for Liam and I especially, that is going to be doing a lot of the back end stuff for, can we call it a business? Are we allowed to call it a business?
Yeah, we can call it. It's not officially a business yet.
So for the back end stuff in the business, as far as, for Liam and I, because there's 3 of us, I'm not sure if delegate, I guess, because there's only 3 of us, I'm not sure if delegate is necessary. The rest, but it's like he said, he's like, yeah, you might have to take this. And I can. It's you know what I mean? I can, exactly. And it's not a problem.
We're all
and I enjoy
skilled
that,
enough to be able to handle each of the little things. And
that's going to take so much pressure off and lessen the possibility of burning out by an infinite amount.
So excited by that idea. So excited, because that was the biggest thing with me stopping LEP is I just burnt out, dude. I'm tired of doing every single thing myself and still failing. It's going to be nice.
We had a whole episode about that. If y'all didn't hear it,
it's true. It's going to be really, really nice. And I'm very excited to see where this kind of partnership goes and see where this leads to. And talking of partnerships, I want to jump into our show's sponsor, Wheel Price. Before I even do the ad read, I want to give a huge shout out to some of the videos that they've been putting out on Instagram. You've been watching them?
The fucking breaker bar with the socket as the mic gets me every time.
Okay, shout out to Kyle for being the presenter of those, but it's really cool. They're putting out Instagram reels where they interviewed a bunch of people at Riverside and just kind of asked them about their wheels, and then they're just like, they're like, where can you buy wheels from, for your next set? And the people, maybe, I don't know if they addressed with them beforehand where they're like, yeah, we're from Wheel Price.
They lean over to the breaker bar with a socket that he's using as a mic and go, Wheel Price.
Exactly. So let's jump into Wheel Price. If you guys are in the market for a new set of wheels or used set of wheels, used set of wheels.
I'm going to move my head over here so you can see it past the...
Wheel Price is a really cool app that you can download, and it's basically just like a forum or classifieds for wheels. Anything from old Japanese wheels to old, rare European stuff, any kind of like OEM wheels. We've talked about this a lot on the podcast too, you know, giving different options towards people for like, hey, I can't afford real wheels right now. Well, hop on Wheel Price and take a look and see what you can find, because there's plenty of options out there. We've discussed them before, you know, looking at OEM replacements that are from a different car, different make, whatever, instead of going like the, hey, I'm going to buy cheap Chinese wheels, or I'm just going to buy something that is a subpar product to fill the void for right now, when you could just buy a cool OEM looking wheel. But Wheel Price is a great place to start that search. So if you guys are in the market for wheels, you just picked up a project car, or you're looking to sell the wheels you currently have and pick up a different set, go on Wheel Price. All of the links are in the description. Go check them out. And like we've said time and time again, they are just a good group of guys. And in terms of partnerships, it's 3 guys, just like me, Matt.
I can't wait to meet them. It's gonna. I know
Matt missed out meeting them.
It's gonna be so great to meet them finally.
But no, really cool group of guys, and they are just like us. They're passionate about what they do, and yeah, they do a great job, and it would be awesome if you guys could go support them, and that obviously helps support this show too. So yeah, go check out Wheel Price, and let us know what you guys think too. If you're on the YouTube and you post in the comments, let us know what you think about Wheel Price. We'd love to hear it. But anyways, back to the podcast.
Everybody on YouTube just watched me zone the fuck out for like a good 8 to 10 seconds. Like one of those things where I like wake up and I saw my face for like a split second in the camera because it's right there.
Oh, I was like, wait, did you see yourself in third person or something?
This is lucid dreaming for like 8 seconds.
Yeah.
No, I was doing it, and then my eyes shifted over there while you were talking. I literally was like this. At the fucking table.
Man just zoned out.
It happened, dude. I'm pretty sure for both of us, but definitely for me, there have been, and there's nothing wrong with the episode. It's not like I'm bored. It's just that like I just spaced the fuck out for a second. And there have been like me and Liam, or me and a guest have been talking to each other.
The other person just like zones out.
And like my brain is talking, and it's making like I'm saying what I want to say, but that's like the bottom half of my head is working, and then the top half is like,
Yeah, it'd be like that. But that also plays into like why I would love to have like a production assistant, because then they can kind of worry about all these other things that my brain starts to think about, like, hey, is my computer screen going to go black, or did it just stop recording, or the level's good, blah, blah, blah. Like, if we can just sit down and have the conversation, I think that this, like, although this flows really well, it could flow better.
And I mean, we're not making any promises. I'm just saying this, but like,
we don't have money to pay a production assistant.
Well,
Benny
no.
could be.
We did, and technically still are playing with the idea once we have the resources to just kind of like, what is it, rent a podcast studio? Or like, because then there was
potentially
those shared work areas or whatever.
Yeah, you can rent studio spaces in different cities. I don't know how much it costs. That may be a thing that we do when we travel outside of here. I'd like to have like a home-based studio that's recognizable, and then kind of when we're in other cities,
that's not in our garage.
Yeah, well, I'd like to make this a lot better, because
I guess that's true, and we can get a better table. I feel like a better table and chairs would probably like make a bigger difference than we realize.
It would make so much difference, because these chairs are so uncomfortable, and the problem is, like, if you're sitting a certain way, you get uncomfortable and you want to readjust. You have to be
so loud.
You have to be really careful how you readjust, because the chair makes a bunch of fucking noise. And same thing with the table. Like, you're just like, all right, I'm going to keep my hands in my lap, because if I put them on the table, you guys are going to be like, it's fucking awful.
It makes me laugh how specifically that noise sounds like somebody kicking an acoustic guitar on accident.
Yeah, that's just how the mics are. But anyways, off of that stuff, there is another little thing that we wanted to get onto, which was a post that I believe
I'll pull it up.
You had found, which is quite interesting.
It was sent to me by my friend Chili at chili.tm on Instagram. One of the greats as far as photography goes. Also, if you, like Chili and I, like retrowave or synthwave or dark wave music, his photography takes on a whole new level. So
yeah, it's
go check that out.
Very influenced by that style. He shoots a lot of stuff at night and enjoys lighting.
So,
anyways,
you have a good reading
you want me
voice.
to read this?
So why don't you narrate that?
So this is the post. I have no idea who the guy is.
The name is gone, so sorry, guy. If you're in this, let us know.
It's like
you.
a screenshot, and his name is cut out, unfortunately. So I do not have the original source. I apologize. But it says, "Riddle me this, loud voices of the internet. We all had it pretty good growing up with our rad, fun vehicular options from S-chassis to Miatas, Civics, Fox bodies, plenty of dirt cheap options as a high school kid, or options. Oh, never mind. Sorry, I'm reading this really bad. Plenty of dirt cheap options a high school kid could go out and buy on a reasonable budget. Of course, that shit is all dried up. If you look at hot rodding through the decades, it's always young kids playing with the options that are about 20 years older. You can subscribe to your doom-scrolling inflation excuses or whatever else, but the fact is there are so few good options past 2002 to 2004 that anybody would want as a fun car. Who had what? The IS300 is slim pickings in manual, but they're around. The 350Z/G is still relatively cheap, but getting there. A few BMWs, Mustangs, MX-5s, but what else? We get a break in a few years with the FRS/BRZ, but I feel like the drought of good cars will just make those start climbing before they even see that reasonable dip. I'm starting to struggle with recommendations for new enthusiasts when someone asks because I simply don't know. If that doesn't concern you, I really think it should. No options for enthusiasts means they straight up give up, the scene dwindles and dies. We have a huge crash, events, support, everything starts collapsing. Then again, with this takeover garbage, maybe that's the cleanse we need. Just food for thought. What are the reasonable beginner vehicles you recommend to new folks these days? What's your take on the next couple decades of used fun cars? Bleak or pretty stoked for anything in particular to be coming down in price?"
So, first of all, shout out to Chili for sending me this because... Oh, wait a minute. Look. Nick Stuckey.
Oh, I guess his name is still
That was
on there.
under the thing. That's why you couldn't see it.
Okay, well, the guy who posted this, his name is Nick Stuckey.
So, if anybody knows Nick, tell him this is a pretty cool point that he raised. But,
absolutely.
So, it is. It's a really interesting point that he raised, and that's kind of why I approached Liam about us talking about it, is one of the things that hit me kind of weird that I didn't really notice the first time until you read it, where he was talking about maybe these takeovers are the cleanse we need. Mm-hmm. Based on the context, I know that he's not like, yeah, the takeovers are cool.
No.
But I don't know. For me, like, I really can't see those, like, people aren't going to, now that that's started, people are not, sorry, YouTube people. Now that that's started, I'm
trying to figure out if he meant that takeovers being a thing is going to cleanse the scene as far as, like, it's going to destroy the scene to a point where it's just done. Like, there's not really that many people that are huge car enthusiasts unless you already have, like, a bunch of money and you can afford to go and buy these more expensive projects or platforms. Because a lot of the, like, really old cars that people would, do restorations or hot rod builds with, they're expensive. And he's specifically talking about the younger generation. So maybe he's talking about, like, hey, all of the younger generation are just going to get into this takeover shit. They're going to ruin it. And then we're going to start from ground zero 5 years from now.
It is an interesting...
I don't really know what that take is, but the rest of it, there's a lot of things that I want to dive into.
So, well, one of the things that technically we've talked about it... Oh, God, I got to get in front of the mic. Technically, we've talked about it before, but it's kind of like, this is just kind of a cost-wise, right now is just a really inconvenient time to be getting into this, because the closer that we get to, like, at whatever speed that we're all kind of getting into, like, the EV hybrid stuff, all of these enthusiast gas cars, the price is going to go up. I'm sorry, but it is. And nobody can tell me otherwise, because that's just the way that kind of stuff works. It's supply and demand, you know? So that part kind of sucks. At least for me. Maybe some people for XYZ reason would disagree, but for me, that sucks.
Yeah. But I think the key point that he was making with that post is that if you take a look back to, say, 10 years ago, right, most of the time, the younger generation, when they're getting into cars, they're choosing the options that are available to them at a budget. So 10 years from now, like 10 years back, it was all of the cars in the 90s, early to mid, late 90s, whatever, right? Cars from the 90s, there were a lot of really cool options, like he mentioned, S chassis, Fox bodies, Fox bodies is basically 80s, but there's a lot of really cool and cheap options in that era. And the point that he is making is for 2000s
It didn't really
to
happen.
mid, there's not really that many good options. But he did say 350Z/G. I think that's a prime example. And we've already seen a ton of people involved with that.
Well, so I'm glad you kind of distilled it into that. So we're like talking about the same thing now, because Lord knows I would have just gone off in 20 different directions. But
EVs are bad.
No. So it's interesting. And I mean, granted, to the nth degree, I'm sure he just gave like the 02 to 04 thing, just kind of like threw it out there, you know, because like I had an 06 RSX and it was fucking incredible. But
very good point.
I digress. Weirdly enough, I think in a lot of ways, I think this is what I was talking about with Ben the last time it was just the three of us, where there was just like this period of time in like the early to mid 2000s where 90% of cars, Japanese or otherwise, were just boring as fuck. Like it just turned into this like big mush.
Yeah.
And that was kind of what started turning into like all the cars looked the same. And then that particular like thing ultimately just got worse in the US because we slowly turned into a very visible SUV market. Mm-hmm. And that's one of the reasons why you have so much of a smaller there's a lot for selection, because the US has been an SUV market for a number of years now. So they're not going to be coming out with that many sports models in an SUV market. But I will say this, fast forwarding to, well, I was about to say today, but like the present. So unbelievably quick aside, shout out Donut Media for a million fucking reasons. But I was watching God damn it. What is the really popular one that now I can't think of the name?
Donut Media?
With James Pumphrey.
That's Donut Media.
No, Donut Media is the company, the actual like web series where he explains shit.
Up to Speed.
Up to Speed, yes. Yeah. So it was an Up to Speed about Gazoo Racing.
Yeah, that's Toyota's like racing division.
Yeah, and so I had known Gazoo, and according to the video, it's been around for a little while. My first exposure to it was in WRC, because ever since Toyota rejoined WRC, it was 2018. Because I remember being really excited about it. So it was when I was already interested in WRC. But the point is, that was my first exposure to Gazoo Racing. So anyhow, they were talking about how Gazoo Racing was ultimately the result of, I think it's Nasuke, he was like basically the fucking Discord. He was basically like, they called him the master of the Nürburgring. He was like such a good race driver that he was like the boss race driver and car tester at Toyota, basically. Okay. And Akio Toyoda, the current CEO of Toyota, basically during that period of time where all the cars were just getting boring as fuck, this Nasuke, according to the video, basically just like walked into his office one day after there was like a presentation or some shit, and he was like, these cars are all boring as fuck.
Yeah.
And so because Toyota like respected him so much and took him so seriously, he's like, he said something about the way that they approach cars, and SK said it to Toyota about like, if you want to build a good car, you have to build it from like driving the car, basically, right? And so fast forward, Akio Toyoda is the CEO of Toyota, and I believe either grandson or the great-grandson of the original like owner of Toyota. Mm-hmm. He's a fucking race driver. Like he literally drives Toyota race cars in races, right? And so because of that, and because of Gazoo Racing's motorsport side, you get the GR Yaris. Now the GR Corolla. And the thing,
we're starting to see a comeback.
The thing that's awesome about that is that is going to push, well, ideally, that is going to push the other car makers that have been slowing down on sports cars to at least have one. At least one.
I hope so. And we don't need to see crazy sports cars. We just need enthusiast-driven cars.
Yeah.
Like, prime example, back in the day, like they were saying, 350Z, MX-5 or Miata. The 3 Series chassis has always been a cool car, but it's always been, when it comes out brand new, it's very expensive. So we need more affordable vehicles. BRZ, FRS, the 8.6, prime example. That is a great sports car because it is small, light, nimble, and it's cheap. Same thing with Honda Civics. They are small, light, nimble, and cheap. We need more vehicles like that 20 years from now are going to be the accessible vehicles for the youth to buy and modify and really like inspire them to be car enthusiasts.
You know what's funny that I just thought about as you said that though?
What?
That's really interesting. I hadn't thought about before. So take a Honda EF Civic hatch, for instance. That car is awesome. I love it. Ben you. I believe you love it. Like they're fucking awesome. But you look at that car and you're just like 80s.
Yes.
Like it's not a timeless design at all.
Yes.
And it just occurred to me that the Civic Type R from right now is going to be the same fucking thing. That's like such a... Don't get me wrong, I love it, but it is unbelievably like late 2010s design. It's so like fucking hard and angular and like sporty.
Yeah.
I obviously have no idea where design is going to be in 20 years, but I guarantee you that's going to have the same like 2010s, like, you know what I'm saying? That doesn't really matter. It just was a weird idea that occurred to me as you said that. So
yeah, no, I mean, thinking back to like the early 2000s, I don't think that it's fair to say that there isn't cheap like alternatives and enthusiast cars. Like, yes, if we consider in, the current market, we consider that things in the next few years are going to start switching more over to EV or whatever fucking direction the auto industry decides to go, prices are going to go up. Naturally, that's just going to happen all around. But I think that there is definitely options out there. And one of the things that I think is even cooler, like this is me trying to take a positive spin on this, is that now that we are getting to the point where the late 90s cars, next year, any car built in 98 will be legal for import in the US.
Yeah.
You know how many cool fucking cars there are in the late 90s?
I was going to go down that direction too.
And yes, of course, all of the very like crazy enthusiast cars are super fucking expensive, right?
I believe that is the invisible barrier that is kind of like the bane of this question, because obviously the question for the most part is kind of like young enthusiasts are coming to me and asking me like, where they, what car they should go towards.
Right.
If you're young, unless you're in a position where I have like more money than most young people by whatever avenue that is, you do have a budget. And like I said, the invisible barrier here is at the moment, there's really not a good answer because it doesn't matter what we're talking about. Enthusiast cars are just getting more expensive. I feel like before now, like he was talking about, you did have those dips. You know what I mean? Yeah. Like, when the Mazda Miata came out, right, it was fucking market price. And it stayed market price there for a while because Miatas are fucking great.
Yep.
But, you know, come like early 2000s, NA Miatas were pretty fucking... I mean, granted, I could be wrong. I'm not a Miata guy. But at some point, Miatas were pretty readily available for not a lot of money.
Yeah. I mean, it'll continue to happen. I'm sure that, you know, the Miatas that are out now, they may... Well,
that's what I'm saying though. Is
they probably won't get that cheap.
I'm not really confident that dip is going to keep happening. Yeah. I think that especially now. I mean, again, I won't lean into the EV thing, but that you can't avoid that. That whether to whatever degree, car makers are changing directions. So supply and demand says that things are going to keep getting more expensive. But that's what I'm saying is like, because of where modified car culture is at, and because, like, let's be real, you compare where car culture was to, like, when Fast and Furious came out to where it is now, like, there's a reason all of those things are dried up.
Yes.
Because modified car culture, whatever part of it may be, I mean, obviously, like, the low-hanging fruit is, like, stance stuff. Right? Yeah. Because like anybody that doesn't know shit about cars can be like, oh, wheels, coils, I stance it, I have a cool car. Like, we're not going to go into that because we've gone into that a million times. But because of the popularity, I don't think you're going to keep seeing those dips like that. I think it's just going to either stay the same or it's going to become more expensive.
Well, here's an interesting observation. And I can't speak firsthand for this, but back in the early 2000s, right? The peak of the, what is it called? What's that era of, because I'm going to get it wrong if I say sex spec, that's not.
Oh, Spocom.
Spocom, sorry. In that era of like really just wild aesthetic modifications, a lot of those cars that they were modifying were
random
like,
as fuck.
Well, that, and a lot of them were not 20 years old. You ever think about that? Like a lot of those cars. I guess technically
you're right.
They're like close to new. And if we look at the same kind of trends in Japan, around the early 2000s, VIP car culture was absolutely fucking huge in Japan. Yeah. Like everybody was involved in this. Those were extremely expensive cars at that time. And so the thing that I'm like seeing from that is that back then it was clearly less accessible to be a car enthusiast if you didn't have money. And I think what may be happening is we've seen this dip for the past 15 years where it's become a lot cheaper. It's become a lot more affordable. It's been more accessible with the growth of social media and with just car prices for enthusiast vehicles dropping down, you know, S chassis, Miatas, whatever being cheap. It's been more accessible for people with lower budgets or less money to get into cars.
That is interesting.
And now because the trends are going back up and things are changing, it's getting more expensive. Well, it was more expensive back then. We just got lucky for a while. That's kind of like that's kind of what I'm seeing from that trend. And none of this is set in stone. I'm not trying to say
no, I mean,
you know, it was really expensive to be a car enthusiast.
Honestly, a really good point. But what's so interesting to me is like we're both right. Do you know what I'm saying?
Yeah, no, nobody's wrong here. Like, they're just observations.
Well, no, and I'm not saying you're saying that I'm wrong. It's just like it's interesting because it's what we're talking about goes in two different directions, but they're both correct. They're both things that are happening. And let me think. I lost it, I think. But like it's just okay, so I don't remember the name of it, but I read a Reddit post like years ago that was kind of talking about how because of the shout out Childish Gambino, because of the internet, like this generation and any generation, like our generation, the reason why they lean on nostalgia so much is because like in a lot of ways, like the 90s and early 2000s were like the last generation where they were having like organic stuff that to whatever degree hadn't like been seen a lot before. But then when the internet came out and we all had access to everybody else, culture just kind of flattened.
It watered down culture, essentially.
Yeah, like culture at large.
That is a good point.
It's kind of like, that's what's so difficult.
It's more normal to see these things that back then were so like out there and crazy and different. Now it's become so normal.
Now it's normal, so people are more comfortable.
Yeah,
like doing. It's like as a weird parallel, tattoos. For a really long time, I mean, just hear me out.
No. I know exactly where you're going.
It's like for a really long time, tattoos were like, oh, it's for criminals and sailors. Like that was a real thing. Like tattoos were like outlaw shit for a long time.
Yeah. If you want to talk about Japan specifically.
Well, wait.
You know, like the history with like tattoo stuff in Japan.
Oh yeah.
Like the only people that had tattoos.
Well, they actually, I think
they legalized tattoos.
Well, they did, like, but then they tried to make it illegal again.
Yeah,
because I followed.
That's very interesting. I'd love to talk to somebody about that.
Yeah, but so anyway, tattoos. So for a really, really long time, it was like outlaw shit. You know what I mean? Like for a lot of people, if you came home and you were not a sailor or a criminal, and you're like, hey, Mom, I got a tattoo, she would just like die. Like,
yeah, she just dies.
It would just, it was just so, that was not a thing that everybody went and did. There was like that invisible, like taboo barrier, whatever, right? Yeah. So I'm not saying there was an invisible taboo barrier for modified cars, but let's be real. There's a reason that for so long we've called it rice, because we're like, ew. You know what I'm saying? Mm-hmm. Well, that was the general public back in the 2000s. They were like, why the fuck would you, why would you do that?
Yeah.
So it was like a smaller demographic.
You don't really hear that term thrown around that often now, ricer.
Because it's kind of like coming back. Well, at least for people that are open-minded.
Yeah.
It's kind of coming back around. Like I remember when in my own case, I remember when I could see a really nice car. Mm-hmm. But then it would have like underglow, and I'd be like, ugh. I wouldn't call it rice, but I'd be like, that's a little too close for me. Yeah. And now I fucking love underglow. I just love it. But that being the case, I also really love well put together spoke arm cars now. That's just, you can quote me on that. Like I really do appreciate them, because you look at them now. And it's one of those things, I mean, this is like low-key kind of a boomer thing to say, but I guess not really in the context. But it's like, I can look at a well-done spoke-arm car and be like, those were the days when people weren't worried about what other people thought. You know what I'm saying? Yeah. And what was interesting, too, about that is when I tried to finish your sentence like a fucking dunce, you were talking about, you went the direction of like Spocom, like those were current cars at the time. Mm-hmm. The other thing is, at the time during Spocom, they were making whole kits for the most random shit. I saw somebody posted in the Discord. I don't remember who. I love all of you equally, so it doesn't really matter.
But you are my children. I love you equally.
Somebody posted a photo. And granted, the car itself was like mid at best as far as Spocom goes, but it was like a Dodge Neon. I hate those cars. Like
hold on, there's hella body kits for Dodge Neons.
Well, I understand that, but like at the time,
yeah.
The point that I'm trying to make is they made kits for some random ass shit.
Oh, there's body kits for PT Cruisers, dude.
You know what I'm saying? And that's what I'm saying. And back then, you could pull up to a show and people would be like, oh shit, look at that kitted out PT Cruiser. Like, you know what I'm saying? So it's like now you have like, and this is just at large. Again, like anybody who's listening to this that's open-minded, you can take a step back from what I'm saying. But the culture...
like somebody's going to listen to this episode and be like, oh yeah, they wrote down all of this stuff before and covered all these topics. Like, no, we're literally free-flowing. Like, we're freestyling all of this right now. So
we told you guys, this is what me and Liam do. Like,
like we're definitely off. Like, I don't want anybody in the comments to be like, oh no, you're wrong about this. When, yes, we may be wrong about it, but we're not. We need to give the disclaimer.
Yeah. Okay.
The disclaimer.
Real quick, you guys. Me and Liam are constantly talking about our opinions.
Yes.
But just constantly. It's our fucking podcast. We're talking about what we think. Our opinions and what we think have never been and never will be any more important than yours. We don't think that we are more right about something than you are just for no fucking reason.
And a lot of the time that we're recording these episodes, we'll get onto topics and things that we haven't pre-planned what we're going to say on that topic beforehand. Shit, it could be a topic that we don't know anything about.
Well, that's kind of why
you
hear us
observations.
You hear us discussing things because we're approaching the topic for the first time.
Exactly.
So you're watching me and him kind of like build these ideas in our head in real time.
Bear that in mind if and when you guys post in the comments. Like, we love for you guys to engage in these conversations and talk about it too, but please don't get in the comments and be like, y'all are fucking idiots. I mean, you can if you want. I'm gonna roast you.
You
for
can,
it.
But they'll
be like, you guys sound fucking stupid on that podcast, bro. You talking about Spocom like you were there, bro. I was there. I had flames on my fucking PT Cruiser, bro. You know nothing about PT Cruisers. Fuck you, bro.
Good. No enlighten me though. And like, if you're gonna come at us with that, fine. But like, be like, I'm gonna be like, hey, cool attitude, but like, can you teach me if there's something that I don't know?
Yeah.
Like, that's just because if you guys haven't noticed, if you're new to the podcast, me and Liam want to and love to learn about this stuff.
That's why the Discord is awesome.
Because the more that we can learn about this stuff, the more that we can share in a given conversation. Like, hey, well, I heard that it was this way or whatever, and I can't. That does get like rides the knife's edge of like we know versus we don't know. But the point is, learning about this stuff is something that he and I both genuinely enjoy.
Yeah.
And the more that we learn, the more that you and us learn from each other, the better off all of us are, because that information is going to spread. Hopefully it's the right information, but yes, so it's all opinions. It's not that deep. Don't get upset. If you don't agree with us, you don't fucking agree with us. If you want to talk to us about it, we want to talk to you about it. But it's not that deep.
Absolutely.
That's our disclaimer.
Yes. Anyway, back to the post that was made. The biggest point that the guy was trying to make, I think, was that, when we were getting into cars, and let's talk about me and Matt specifically, our age group. So we've been around cars and been involved in the car community for about 10 years. So 10 years from now puts you just into the teens. So, 2012 to, let's say, like 2014, right? 20 years from there takes you back to the early 90s. There's a lot of really good options for vehicles that you can pick up for cheap and you can modify. And his comparison was that if you fast forward 10 years and think about what the newer generation now are trying to get into, what affordable options do they have? Because we've dried up all of the S chassis, the Miatas, all of that stuff. So if there is anything that's nice and worth buying, it's gone up in value. And that's why I brought up the JDM alternatives thing, because right now we're getting into the 25-year rule where it's about to be the late 90s. Like this year 97 is legal. Now, of course, the JDM market is crazy like everything right now. JDM market for enthusiast vehicles is even crazier. I'm not talking about Skylines. I'm not talking about fucking Supras, NSXs.
No,
those
even like B-line cars.
Yes, I am talking about cars that most people don't pay attention to. I think the Majesta's somewhat of an example of that. It's a great car. It's been treated very, very well. Like, it has crazy low miles on it. It's not an enthusiast-based car, but there are so many options in Japan for cars that have potential. And maybe an example, a Starlet, some kind of an older generation Starlet would be cool. But as far as like things that are just now becoming legal for import, S chassis, they're going to be expensive because it's an enthusiast vehicle. But I can, even though I cannot name stuff off the top of my head other than VIP cars, because that's all my brain does.
So off rip,
there's options.
An SR20 if you're like a Nissan fanboy and you want an SR20, if you can bring yourself to give up rear wheel drive, if you want to like do a cool build, at least for me, it would be a cool build. You can take it or leave it. Nissan Primera, it's the exact same thing as an Infiniti G20.
Yep.
But the JDM one, the SR is tuned, so it's a little bit faster. I don't remember what the horsepower difference is. But, like, for me, I would build a JGTC rep car out of that so fucking fast.
Yeah.
And it has an SR in it, and it's JDM. So it's like, is that as exciting as, like, an Enthusiast, as, like, an S chassis or whatever?
Right.
It depends who you ask. But the point that I'm making is there's other shit out there, but you have to look. You have to look around. Well, like, you can't just roll with what everything you see on Instagram. Like, look around. Like, there's so many late 90s Toyotas that nobody fucking knows about. Mm-hmm. It's crazy.
Here's something that just came to mind that I don't know. Maybe it is coming into light, but are we now moving into a generation where there isn't enthusiastic vehicles accessible to the younger generation on any kind of budget? Maybe we're moving into the era where you do have to look harder and see potential in platforms that most wouldn't.
I absolutely think that's kind of where I was aiming, but didn't quite get at the very beginning when I was talking about the money thing.
Yeah.
That's exactly what's happening. Like, you just, all of the things, you know, he's talking about stuff that was available here that's dried up.
Yeah.
You have different kinds of JDM cars that were never available here that have since dried up. And it's so like,
maybe we start seeing more of a push of people getting into VIP cars or small hatchbacks and things that are niche subcultures that for the 15 years in the US where we've had this like lucky dip where you've been able to get S chassis and whatever else for cheap. Maybe we're now moving into a new era where you can still get stuff for cheap, but we're going to start seeing more people that are creatives, more people that can see potential in shittier chassis. And maybe we're going to see less people buying hyped up chassis or like really high horsepower cars or whatever. Like, if people only have what is available for them or to them to modify, we're going to see more people building quality cars.
Yeah, and that's what you and I have always talked about, and I want to present this to you, the listener. This is very simple to visualize. Can you imagine pulling up to a show and, like, instead of being, like, 10 to 15% cars where you're like, oh, shit, I've never seen XYZ done before. Mm-hmm. Can you imagine pulling up to a show and like 50 fucking % of the show is cars where you're like, holy fuck, I never thought about that. That would be so cool.
And I think
that would be so cool. And it's like that. Here's the only problem. This is me being the realist in this situation. Mm-hmm. People are so fucking lazy, dude. People are so, and especially when people have money. So that's why, that's part of the reason that we are where we are. That's why these cars that people do pay attention while they're building excite me so much, because they're not all over the place.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, this seems like really contradictory, kind of, but like, you know, there's obviously the visceral reason where I'm just like, that's fucking cool. That car makes me like think about stuff. And so that obviously means that they put a lot of thought into it. Mm-hmm. But the other thing is, cars that stop me in my tracks generally fit that bill where it's like somebody took a chassis that, you know, you don't see often or in stock form looks like a piece of shit, like whatever. But like, I feel like we talked about like the last 2 episodes. Like all it takes is
one
seeing
person to do that
one
car right. Yep.
Car right, and then all of a sudden people are like, "Oh shit, that is a viable option." So like fucking Escort wagons.
Oh yeah.
You know what I mean? Just like his Escort wagon. You know, if enough people like latched onto that, all of a sudden People are working on building escort wagon. I mean, people start finding like obscure kits and all this kind of stuff.
I want to go back to what you were saying about pulling up to a car show and just seeing that every, like 50 or 60% of the cars are like different chassis. I had a full circle moment while you were saying that.
Oh, give it to me, dude.
That's exactly how the Spocom shows were.
Yeah.
That's exactly when I was a kid and I went to a car show. I guess it was like later in the mid 2000s. When I went to like a Spocom car show, everything there was different and crazy.
That's
and
why
every car there was people going well out of their fucking way to make sure their car was different and special.
That's why I was making the observation about the neon kit. It's like, woo!
I think, okay.
Because it's like... Yeah. Okay.
I think we're going in a great direction.
No, I think. So this is the thing. Spocom cars were probably the closest the modified import community at large has ever come to being like lowriders, and I'll tell you why. I mean, first of all, the most low-hanging fruit about the statement that I just made was the amount of fucking Spocom cars that had like airbrushed murals somewhere on the car was quite high.
Yes.
And that in and of itself, I don't give a shit if it is the most whack, ridiculous subject matter. These guys were still paying to have an airbrushed mural somewhere on their car. You don't do that to your car if you don't fucking care about it. And so the other thing is, yes, absolutely. Some of the styling, especially in the lens of like what we think is cool today, looks whack as fuck. Like personally, and Boki is gonna hate me for saying this, but
I'm not trying to say that we're about to go into Spocom and people are gonna do the most outlandish shit ever.
I know, but what I'm saying is like that. I hope beyond all hope that in a way we can circle back, not necessarily into like, obviously, like tacky. Okay, what am I trying to say? What I'm trying to say is I hope that we are making that circle, but it will have evolved just a little bit. So it's not like tacky, but everybody is approaching this as to how can I make this like as artistically different. Not can I buy a kit that can I buy a wide body or whatever that nobody else has yet?
Yeah.
That's all fine and good. But like, you don't see people fucking that LS. That is the first time that I have seen somebody delete body lines. I have never seen that before.
You're talking about the 430? Yeah.
Shit like that. I mean, yeah, it's like sometimes it's little, sometimes it's weird, like whatever. But that's exactly what you're talking about. If you had a Spocom show on one side of a convention center and a lowrider show on the other side of a convention center, it would be pretty equally interesting, I would say, as far as like what?
You'd find VIP cars right between the two.
Well, and so that's what I'm saying is it's like VIP cars have a very like concrete like set of things that make it really cool and make it stand out. Yeah. Right? Spocom, same deal. Lowriders, the fucking OGs for that. Right? So if you had a convention center split up into three parts, Spocom, VIP, lowriders, I would argue that you would be just blown away in the best way across the board. Yeah. Whereas if you had a fucking, I mean, and granted, stepping back from what I'm about to say, we are probably a little bit numb just because these are the kind of cars that we're into. Mm-hmm. Whereas if we came in and we didn't know anything about them, we would be equally as interested. But like I said, stepping back from that, if you had a convention center split into three and it had lowriders, VIP, and then just like whatever's at your regular stance show, two of those are interesting. The third one is just not. Yeah. It's just not. I'm not saying there's not going to be any cool cars in there.
Well, no.
But there will be a few, not all of them.
I think that a lot of the stuff that we've seen in this dip, where I keep referring to it as being like a lucky stage where, cool chassis have been affordable. And the age of social media has hyped those chassis up, and it's been a lot more accessible to do things. These are all things that are well and good. And the reason that I say that, us moving in more of a direction where you're forced to look more into like different chassis, and maybe it's not all like around these hyped up chassis, whatever. The reason I say that is good is I don't want anybody to take it the wrong way. Like, this could quite easily be taken as like, oh, I want everybody to be of this elitist mindset of where if you don't have money or whatever, you can't sit with us. That's not what I want this to come across at all.
Just to clarify to anybody that maybe knew the podcast, Liam and I have talked about this at length.
Yes.
The important thing in our eyes, vision. And we feel like for a lot of people, the important thing is if you have vision, you could be dirt fucking poor.
Yes.
But if you have a car and you care about it, if you have vision, you can use whatever you have as long as you're not just fucking hacksawing it. Right. You're in good shape.
Right. Absolutely. And the reason that I say that I'm excited about this potential kind of switch in the car industry, and I think I may be seeing where he's coming from about the takeover stuff being a cleanse. I think I may be seeing it now, like full picture. I think that because it's going to start becoming more of a thing where you have to think harder about what cars are available for you to buy. You have to think more about how can I make this car stand out, make this car special. You're going to see less and less people that are just involved in cars because they like the hype, they like the attention, and they like the thrill that it brings them. The biggest reason that takeovers exist is because it's so fucking easy to go and buy a Hellcat, buy a fucking Scat Pack, and slide it around. It's so accessible, right? And, not everybody at takeovers has those cars. You have tons of other people in whatever other cars. But the people that are involved with takeovers and takeover culture are not car enthusiasts. They are people that are in it for the fucking thrills. They enjoy the feeling of going and doing a bunch of dumb shit and everybody getting excited. If more and more of the car culture and it becomes less accessible for you to buy cars that you can use for that application. Not to say everybody does. But if it is harder for you to buy cars for that application, you'll see less and less people do it. And if the only way to be a true enthusiast is to go to car shows and build cars that are aesthetically pleasing, I'm all for that. That's what I want to see.
I agree with your evaluation 50%, and I'll tell you why. So this kind of goes back to what Totem had. As an aside, I was thinking the other day, if we ever finally get him on the show, obviously the first thing I'm going to be like, hey, just check out some of the episodes, whatever. I hope to God that I didn't misconstrue something that he said, and the many times I'm like, Totem told me. And he's like, listen, he's like, I never fucking said that.
Yeah.
But anyway, so it goes back to what I remember Totem telling me about how there will always be three types of people. Right? People without style that want to learn, and people with style. Well, that was kind of here's the deal. Humans are like this. The takeover people will always exist. This is why I 50% agree and disagree. What I think is going to be important at the consumer level, as you've talked about many times, is to try and build the gap between those two. Because look, if they want to fucking do burnouts, if they want to burn themselves out into just depleting all of those cars, fucking let them do it. I don't give a shit.
Yeah, no,
I agree. I think ultimately our responsibilities now, really ever since this takeover bullshit started, but our responsibilities now is if you are a car enthusiast and you give a shit about this, don't fucking stand up for that shit. I mean, okay, I'll give you two levels of aggression.
Did you say don't stand up for it?
Don't stand for it. But listen,
okay. You mean stand against it? Yes.
Yeah,
okay,
but
good.
Listen. So I'll give you three levels of aggression. I'll give you three levels of activism as pertains to takeovers. So the first level is you're yeah, they suck, and that's kind of all you want to do. Keep saying that they suck and have nothing to do with them. The second thing is be really outspoken about how much they suck. And if you see any of your friends taking part in that shit, you need to be like, yo, what the fuck are you doing, dude?
Yeah.
And then the third level, I've realized I've run out of levels. Maybe I can't think of the third level. Just think of something more aggressive than both of those and do that.
The goal with stuff like that and the way to like enforce change and shit like that is to make it to where
you're ashamed to do that shit.
The people that do that shit and the people that are involved are ashamed to be involved with it. And then it's never going to stop, like you said.
Right.
And I didn't really cover that in what I was saying. But I think that if there is less and less vehicles, or like the bar to entry to be a car enthusiast, whether you're doing it for takeover stuff for the attention or you genuinely want to build stuff, if you're not able to buy the cars
just
that you
to
can,
waste the
like
money.
the enthusiast vehicles, there's going to be less people, and then it comes that thing where the only people that can do it are the ones that have money. And I never want it to get to that point where it's like, you got to have money to be a car enthusiast. But end of the day,
I would go so far to say you're not saying that you like need money. So for me, you don't even have to indicate what you just indicated. I think it's more that in that scenario, the people that are going to spend the money, generally speaking, if you're spending the money, you're about it. And if you're about it, you're going to put effort into what you're doing.
Right. And the way that kind of plays into the takeover thing is that a lot of these takeovers and videos that I'll see is people doing it in shitboxes. I see a lot of people in shitbox LS400s slinging them around. Well, if LS400 prices go up, who's going to go and buy a fucking $10,000 LS400 to wreck it into a crowd of people showing off?
Right.
You're not going to do it.
Yeah.
And so if it becomes less accessible for people to buy, an LS is not exactly an enthusiast vehicle, but if there's less and less of those cars, and then we're in this dip period where companies just didn't make cars that were like useful for that,
demand just comes even higher.
Yeah, and then the only people that can be involved in the takeover shit are the ones that have money. And then there's going to be a select few of those people that are like, well, this isn't as big, it's not as popular. It's not really
attention.
It's not really worth me wrecking my fucking Hellcat.
You are absolutely right.
There's not enough fucking people. There used to be thousands of people that would come out to this intersection and watch me wreck my shit. But now there's only like a handful of people. My friend there's only a handful of people that have enough money.
And I've already hit him with the SN like 4 times. I'm surprised he's still alive.
Exactly. So, as much as it sucks that things are going to get more expensive and the bar to entry is going to be more difficult for you to be an enthusiast, things are going to become less accessible. But the reason that I say that is a good thing is because it will filter out the bullshit.
Right.
I think that this trend that we are coming into, we are going to see more and more people, like you said, that if you can afford to do this, you're about it. And you will really be about it. You will build good quality cars, and you will be truly involved and care about the community that you're a part of. Because everything is so accessible right now, it's so cheap, the bar to entry is so low with social media, you can do whatever the fuck you want to get that serotonin kick as easily as possible.
Right.
And that, unfortunately, has seen a huge downfall in the car community. And I think if that changes and it gets more expensive to be an enthusiast, it filters out some of the idiots. And we're not saying that, in the near future, you're going to have money to be a car enthusiast. Like we've said many a times, yes,
cars are pay to play.
Yes, so we're
here to tell you.
It's always pay to play, but it filters out the people that do it for the wrong reasons.
Right.
If you don't have a lot of money, if you're really about it, you'll find a way to do it. You'll find a way to execute your vision regardless of the money.
That's your thing.
But it will filter out the people that do have money or don't have money that just want to get involved for the wrong reasons. That's really the point that I'm getting at with that.
No, and I agree. Don't get me wrong. I agree completely. Yeah. Like obviously I know what I said. I agree completely. It's just it's just anything. I guess the reason that I'm talking so much is just because there's so many different facets of it.
Oh, there really is.
But it's just like I hadn't really realized it until you said that. You actually brought a really good point as far as how, in a really up and down kind of way, you may be right. I mean, this barrier to entry getting a little bit higher could be just what this needs. I mean, and we can only hope. And
I think that's the point that he was making about the takeover thing being a cleanse. It fucks so much shit up that it makes it really difficult to be an
draws
enthusiast.
a line in the sand, basically.
And then it just ends up being the people that really want to be here.
Right. Yeah. I mean,
I think that's a great way to kind of finish up on this episode. I'm big. I feel like I'm low key like a little excited as to how that like conversation developed as we were talking about it.
Yeah, I was gonna say fuck.
What?
There's like something else stuck in me that needs to come out before we hang this up, but I can't figure out what the fuck it is.
Oh.
You ever just you like have that one last thing you want to say, but you can't figure out how to say it?
Yeah, because you wanted to say it 10 minutes ago, but we were already in a conversation, and then you forget about it.
Exactly.
That happens all the time when you do this. If you guys ever sit down and like have intense conversations with people, that shit happens all the time. Somebody will get onto something, and then you can't say anything because they're still talking, but then you get onto the next point, and then you're still trying to remember what it was.
I am the worst. And you guys have probably seen this since you've been witnessing Liam and I's conversations. I promise I do try. I used to be even worse, and it was horrendous. But I'm so bad about interrupting people. And I absolutely do not do it to be rude. I don't do it because I don't care what you're saying. Mm-hmm. I do it because my memory is so fucking awful. If I don't say what I need to say within 20 seconds of thinking it, it's gone forever. Yeah. So it's like if I'm thinking something and I feel like this is a good thing to put out into the air, I'm like, okay, I'm just going to go. Yeah. And it's so bad. I don't mean to do that, but I don't mean to do that, and I need to improve with that. However, I think, something that is important that we don't say the word as often. It's just something that Liam said that every time I think about it, all circles back around to that. A community is made up of individuals. And you guys, everybody listening, anybody that's hearing the words that we're saying right now as individuals, if you care about this stuff and you are not doing it for the clout, for attention, for what the fuck ever, ultimately, this sounds really Captain Planet of me to say, but like, ultimately, where this community goes is absolutely has to do with you. Because if you're an educated consumer, if you're an educated car enthusiast, I guess, you're going to know what to pay attention to and what not to, what to support and what not to support. Mm-hmm. The more good decisions that you make, if we multiply you by fucking everybody that listens to this podcast at whatever point in time that you're listening to this episode, if you are all acting in ways that you feel like is conducive to advancing the modified car community, I mean, here and anywhere in the world, that's what needs to happen. That's the positive direction. That's going to get this where you want it to be. So it's kind of like, talking about like changing the world and this and that is a whole other conversation where
it's not that serious.
Individualism is, it's one thing. But as far as the car community, being an educated enthusiast, as it were, it's super important for that reason. When you multiply you being an educated enthusiast by fucking 1,000 people, that is 1,000 people consciously saying, no, I'm not going to support this thing that's clearly detrimental to what I love.
Yeah. Absolutely, man. And, all of this is just kind of hearsay. We were just going off of a post that we had seen that provoked some good questions and ultimately led to this. Neither of us are like, yes, this trend is happening and, takeovers aren't going to exist.
You're watching these unfold real time.
Yeah, we're just having a conversation, and it was a very interesting one. At that, I'm like, the idea of like you were saying, the idea of rocking up to a car show and seeing like 50 or 60% of the cars being things you've never seen before is so exciting to me.
Oh yeah,
because like I am, dude, one of the biggest reasons I had to stop doing LEP and being burnt out is because I'm tired of car shows being shit. Yeah. Like just so many of them are just like minimum effort. like same cars. The cars are all minimum effort. And I'm just sick of people doing things for the wrong reasons. I'm just sick of people being so about the fact that, I'm a car enthusiast, but it's just to say that they're a car enthusiast. Like being a car enthusiast has become like a trend.
Yeah, and that's the worst
I'm tired of
part about the whole thing. Like
I've spent my entire life being obsessed with cars. Just everything I do has been based around cars.
Well, it's just like it's a choice that when you're into this stuff, it is a choice that you yourself need to make. If you don't have style and you want to be a car enthusiast, like it is 100% your choice.
You know what else is a choice?
Whether or not you want to be like, I'm really into this shit and I want to make a car that's cool and gets you attention. I got fucking news for you. If you build a cool car and put effort into it, that will also get you attention.
Right. That could just be a byproduct. Doesn't have to be the main.
You know what I mean?
Reason.
So it's like not only would you get some of this attention that you're searching for, but like you'll also have a cool car that you can look at and be like, I actually put more than 2 minutes of thought into that car.
You know what else is a choice?
What?
Listening to this podcast.
Yeah, that's also a choice.
I think that it's a cool choice to listen to this podcast. Because
well put, Liam.
If you will sit here for 2 hours and listen to us rack our brains about this shit and the stuff that we think is really interesting, if you're that about cars to listen to a 2-hour episode
of
every
just two
single
guys
week
talking
of us just talking about cars and everything to do with cars, psychology to do with cars, blah, 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 llama shops, Crown Vic couches, whatever the fuck. You're about this shit.
Yeah, I would agree. I think you're about this shit. If
you tune into this show every single week to hear us talk about cars, you made a choice. You're about cars. You're an enthusiast. And I'm not saying that if you don't listen to this show, you're not an enthusiast. Some people don't have time, but the people that do choose to listen to this show, we really appreciate you guys. And the reason we do this is because we want to develop an audience of people that are really fucking about this shit.
Yeah.
Because the best way that we can improve the community is
finding people that are about this shit.
Yes, the more people that we find that have similar views and the same core values or our same, they're able to open their mind the same way that we are. If we get all of those people and we put them all together in one place, imagine what we could actually do for the community.
Yeah, well, no, I agree. And
like imagine
one of the things that I always remember when I was on here with Verone was when I don't remember like verbatim what my question was, but I just remember his response being like, oh, he was talking about, I was like, well, I mean, why do you pay attention when like random nobodies on the internet like tell you X, Y, Z? And he's like, because I'm interested. Like, we don't want to be a fucking circle jerk. Like, yeah, we could sit around and be yes men for each other all fucking day, but what does that matter?
Right.
Like, this is kind of the same thing. It's like in building that like community within a community that we want to build. It's not even like a circle jerk, like, oh yeah, they all agree with what me and Liam think, like this and that. No, it's not like that. I just think that if you want to hear people like have different opinions on this stuff and be militant about what they believe and this and that, go on Instagram for 30 seconds. Yeah. They're all there. I promise you'll find them very quickly. Like, but the thing about it is, all you have to do is ask yourself, just ask yourself, your own judgment, is what this person's saying doing anything positive for the community that I love and this person claims to love? Mm. It's a very simple question. In that, it's a very simple litmus test. Like, it's kind of... Who is it? Matt on Twitter, Madison made that fucking post talking about me and the conversation with you and Pete, where you and Pete were talking about all this stuff. And then she was like, Matt just says, just don't be a, and then put dick with sparkles on either side.
Yeah.
It's like, it's kind of that thing, man. It's like this.
Yeah, we can talk about all these like detailed things and everything, but it really does come down to just like being a good person.
Yeah, like it sounds really lofty maybe a little bit, but like this thinking about all of this stuff at the baseline, you go from car enthusiast to being just like a solid person so quickly. Because if you want to be a part of this community, and you really do love it, just whenever you come across something, whenever you come across somebody sharing some type of sentiment, I'm not going to say like, whenever you come across a wide body FRS that fits the clout box that Matt and Liam said, like, is that good for the... I'm not saying that. I'm talking about...
Awfully specific.
Yeah.
Wide body FRSs are punching the air right now.
I'm talking about when you see people talking mad shit on Instagram about whatever as pertains to the car scene. All you have to do is pull that litmus test out of your back pocket, look at what they're saying, and be like, is what they're saying / doing productive? And the answer is either going to be, yeah, I can see how it'd be productive, or no, they're just fucking setting another small fire that could eventually burn down this thing that I love. Like,
Yeah.
And that's a educated enthusiast.
Yeah.
But
there's
anyways,
the next really cheesy decal.
But yeah,
Educated enthusiast.
you know, I kind of think, like, imagine there's 10 million car enthusiasts in the world, and out of the 10 million, only 1 million or even 500,000 of those people are genuinely really about it. Those 500,000 people could be spread out everywhere. They could be so far apart, they could have no means to really like discover each other. Well, I want this podcast to be a place where you can discover each other, and that's why we have a Discord. The Discord is really cool because you guys can log on there. You can meet other people that think the same way that you do. Anybody who listens to this podcast and is this far into the episode is about this shit.
Yep.
They really care about it. They're really interested in it. And I want this to become a space. I want it to become a thing that we can actually bring people who are genuinely about this shit together. And when those kind of people come together is when change happens. And that is why we are so fucking excited about everything to do with this podcast and all of the directions that it may take in the future.
Now I feel better. Now I have like that closure. That was the little bit of conversation that I need to have. You guys, if you haven't gathered from everything that we've been saying, we really appreciate you so much. Like you have to realize the gravity of how much you are helping Liam and I, and now Ben as well, to even, as we've said a million times, we do this because we like it. We do this because we enjoy doing this. I look forward to recording with Liam literally every week. But the fact of the matter is, it would certainly be a lot harder for us to rationalize spending our time doing this all with equipment where we could just do it at the kitchen table. But you guys interacting with us, you guys leaving comment, like you guys listening, you guys sharing, you guys doing all of this stuff, that is what is giving us the motivation that like this is something.
Yeah.
You guys doing what you do is our indicator that this is something, and it's going to be something even bigger. So,
and we absolutely, you know, we see the potential in what this podcast has and what it can become. And that's why at the start of this episode, we wanted to talk about, you know, future plans and turning it into a business, because end of the day, for us to take this to the next level, for us to really reach out to the right people and grow and make a difference, we have to monetize this. We have to turn it into something where it makes money, and that money has to be put back into making it bigger, making it better, and ultimately something that I've talked about a little bit here and there. I want to get into events. The money that I can make from this, I want to put into making an incredible event. And I have some things in the works. I'm not going to say too much on it, but I am working towards doing my first actual car show, like big actual car show, next year. Not going to say anything else on it. Not going to talk about anything else on that. But some people will hear about it, like people that I want to actually be involved. But it's something that I'm working towards and I'm very excited about. And I think that this podcast, turning it more into a business and really just focusing on growing it
and trying to put as much money back into making it better as possible, is going to be awesome.
I think this was, I mean, I don't know why I'm so possessed to say this right now, but I'm just going to say it. As far as monetization goes, that is kind of the big exciting challenge for me. Going back to what I was talking about at the beginning of this, I want Substance to be something. I mean, obviously, you guys support us, and we love you for that. And the people that have bought merch have already like showed monetarily that they support us. But like, the reason that I say, that we eventually need to monetize this is the big exciting challenge for me, is because, like I said earlier, I want to be able to create a space that is the physical manifestation of what you're listening to right now. Yes. I want to be able to create a space where it interests you and excites you so much that you overwhelmingly want to support us with your money. I don't want you to just be like, well, fuck, man, like their presence is pretty limp, but I love the podcast, so I guess I'll like buy it. No, like I want you to be able to say like, yeah, dude, I bought this thing from them in the whole process, and like I got to talk to them and this and that. That is all really important to me. And that, I think, is something that I learned a lot of lessons about with Not Fast, but also, quick shout out to Zach at Misguided Media. Much like Mason, his booth and the way that he, I was about to say formatted, the way that he designed it and laid it out lit a fire under my fucking ass. Mm-hmm. I want to, I would say do something like that, but I want to take that to the next level. And I don't worry about saying that, because I know if I take it to the next level, then Zach will take it to the next level. So I don't feel bad about saying that, because I know he's either going to keep up or surpass me. But the point that I'm getting at is I want whatever presence Substance has at shows at any given time, I want that to be something where on your way to the show, you're like, I got to go see what Substance is doing. Yeah. That is what I want to do, and that's what I'm going to do. So sorry, that was like a really long
No. You're totally fine. But we're just, if you guys couldn't tell,
we're fucking excited.
We're really fucking passionate about this shit. We can't shut the fuck up about it. It'd be even worse if Ben was sitting between us, because this would be a 3-hour conversation. Yeah. I already can't fill my ass. It would be so much worse. But yeah, next steps for us, we really need to figure out this recording situation. We need to get on top of like having guests on here, planning stuff further ahead. So we're working on all of these things. We're growing. We're trying to figure it out as we go. But all we need from you guys at this moment is to keep listening, keep sharing it. If you have any of your friends, you're aware of anybody in your circles that you think would enjoy this, please send it to them. Like I said, if you're about this shit, you're about this shit. So if you know any of your friends that are about this shit, send it to them. And also, please repost this when you're listening to it on your stories. I cannot tell you how much that helps us. Just seeing that, if we reshare it, how many people get to see that, it's huge. And it doesn't matter how many followers you have. I don't care whether you have 200 followers or 200,000 followers. I want this out to genuine people. I want this out to people that really fuck with this shit. 200,000 people is not that big of a deal to me. If you have followers of 200 people and they're all people that fuck with cars, they're genuine enthusiasts, I want them here. Right. So, yeah, send this out to your friends. Repost it on social media. And here's to the future of Substance. And hopefully, hopefully all of the things to come. Let me get a fist bump
that only YouTube will see.
I'm super excited about everything that we have planned for the future. And I hope you guys are too. And please make sure to give us 5 stars on Apple Podcasts and on Spotify. Although we have joked so many times about we don't know what that does. We kind of do. If podcasts become a big thing for the automotive space, we want to be...
They will be very valuable.
We want to make sure that, our stars mean something to someone. I have no idea.
We do know what they mean. We don't really know what they mean. That's what you just did.
Yes, yeah, pretty much. They're going to mean something someday.
He is correct. They're there for a reason, and as far as we know, that reason will be a lot more apparent once there are more podcasts in the space. So
yes.
If you like it, please give us some of them delicious stars.
Yeah, and we love you guys. We'll be back next week for another episode.
Yes, we do. We love you guys, and I'm your other host, Matt.
Please go support Wheel Price. Links are in the description and join the Discord. Bye, y'all.
Bye.